I'm here on an absolutely average Pacifica, Yamaha Pacifica. I'm here and I'm going to do this broadcast, and this broadcast is all about how to play the dreaded F chord. So here's how we do this. How we find how the easiest way to play the dreaded F chord. What we need to do, first things first, is you need to understand how your hands work. I'll just put a thing to a video up there that explains more in depth how your hands work, but it's all about the ligaments. What most people think is with an F chord that it is a bar chord. You can play an F and not even go anywhere near a bar. So let's get started with this lesson. This is a bar chordless F chord. It still works and it will enable you to play songs, because that's what you're after at the end of the day. You're here to play songs. That's what you want to do. Right, okay, so first things first. The first thing you need to understand is that the F chord, what is the F chord? Well, there are, if you know anything about the cage system, then you will understand there are 5 F chords that you can achieve all over the neck. But the one that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about today, is the E-shaped F chord. Now we all know that this is what it looks like. Yeah, and the reason this one is such a pain in the butt to play is because you've got the maximum string tension down there. If you just press against your string there, and you'll see there's a lot of tension. If you press the string here, you'll see there's even less tension. So the place where there's the most tension, you have to get your first finger across and do that barring thing. It's nonsense. You don't need to. Let me just say this. There are no chord police. There is no authority on how to play guitar. It is all opinion. Here's the main thing. If it sounds good and it works, it's good. That's the only thing you need to be able to remember here. If it works, it works. End of. Right. So, here's the first thing. This F chord here, this F chord is actually an E shape. Now, if you know an E major, your humble E major, I'll just lean over and show you this bad boy. Yeah, you know that your first finger goes on the first fret of the G string, and your second and third fingers go on the second fret of the A and the D string respectively. And you leave your pinky out there. You can show that you're having tea with the Queen or something. So here we got that E chord. Now it's as simple as this. This is how simple it can be to find how to play this F chord. This is one way around it. If we take that shape, and instead of leaving the pinky out, we want to leave the index finger out and substitute those 3 fingers for those 3 fingers instead. So I'll put my second finger on that G string on the first fret, and then I put my third and my fourth fingers on. That still gives me a good old E chord, but here's the cool thing. If I slide that up 1 fret, then I get the F. So there's my F chord. Now, the cool thing about doing this method is that what it does is it uses the ligaments and the tendons in your hands properly. When you put the bar chord on, normally, the way that everybody gets taught how to play bar chords is actually, I think, wrong, because it works against how your ligaments and your flexors and your tendons all work. What most people do is they put the first finger across here, then they put the second finger on. Now what you've got is you've got a ligament between these 2 fingers, and when you try and pull that in, if you just pull that second finger in while you're holding that first finger up, you'll feel the rub, you'll feel the tension between those tendons there, and that is why it's uncomfortable to play the F chord. This is why. So this is the bar, and then we put the shape on. Now essentially what we do is we put the bar on and then put the shape on. After a while it's pretty easy to do that, but reality is what we need to do is we need to scout, and we scout with the middle finger, and we're going to scout actually the second finger string. So that is the note. This is on the G string 2nd fret. This is for the F chord. Yeah, and then what I do is I put my E shape on. You can see I'm just putting my E shape on a fret higher than I did here. So I'm just putting that shape on here, but I start the whole process by putting the middle finger on. Gives me a good balance. These two fingers like to work together, so I put those two on, then I put my bar on afterwards, and I can adjust that bar accordingly. I can lower it or raise it, because what might happen is the strings might get lost in the cracks in your fingers there where your fingers bend, in the phalanges. That's the posh Latin word. So we put that 2nd finger on, 3rd and 4th finger on, then we put the bar on. This gives us this transposable E shape. Transposable. Trans means move, pose means position or do this, things like that. So we've got that shape there. Now, if you know your E string, then you'll know that this is F, and that's the root note of the chord. And to play the E shape bar chord, which is also known as the F, yeah, you'll know that realise that this is a movable shape. So if I move that up here to the 3rd fret, that becomes a G. If I move up to the 5th fret, it becomes an A. If I move it up to the 7th fret, it becomes a B. Yeah? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I play a B? Well, this is another way to do it. So, but, you know, that's one way around it. So we've got this E shape, move it up, put your bar on. That's an easy way to do it. That's an easy way to do it. But is that always going to be the most economic and efficient way to change your chords? Because you've got to think about it. If that F chord there, it's only really going to be in 3 keys. Yeah? And the chords that you're going to be changing from to get to the F, more than likely it's going to be in the key of C, because the key of C is the guitarist's key. Yeah? So if we look at a C, then what we can do is we can change to this C, and this is the bar chordless version. So we put the C chord on, 1, 2, 3, like that. And then what I do is I put my little finger on the 3rd fret of the D string. That gives me a lovely C sus4 chord, if I leave out the thin E string, that is. It's a beautiful decoration for a C chord in itself. And then, so the simple thing is if you get used to playing that, play the C, put that little finger on there, then move your 2nd finger down. Well, what that does is if I take my 1st finger off, you can see I've got my E shape there. And I'm just end up adding this note here. So this gives me an easy to form F. But also it means that it's going to be super efficient for changing back to a C. So look, if I'm going to go back to a C, I lift my 2nd finger up and I take my little finger off. Pinky on, 2nd finger down. That's super economical. If I was to use a standard bar chord version of an F chord, I would be going like this. And you can see there's way more movement in that. We want to keep movement down. We want to be really efficient. Another cool thing is if I can transpose the standard bar chord shape up, then I can do the same thing with this shape here. So if that's an F, then this is going to be a G. So there's F, here's G. And if I wanted to go from, say, something, a common chord progression would be C, F, G. That's chords 1, 4, 5 from the key of C. Now that's going to be great. That's going to be great for you. Really economical. Now, if I was to use standard grips, here's the C, here's the F. Can you see how much? I had to look then. There's a lot more movement in that range of chord grips. So what I'd suggest to you is have a go at this. C, pinky on, second finger down. That gives you an F. That's how you avoid the dreaded F. There's a G there. There's an F. G. That's an A. We want a B. We can get a B there. Now, if you are one of those alien species that has a thumb that can fit over the top, you can get that thumb over, and then that means you can get the root note just like you would do if you were getting the bar. Okay, that's the end of this lesson, guys. If you've got some value from this and you've enjoyed this video, then please, I'm looking at my notes, like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, just comment. Please check out my other videos. I'll put something up here. But great. Thank you very, very much for watching. I totally appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. Cheers. See you later, guys.